Hey, beautiful beings. Welcome back to the Faith and Frequency Book Club. Week 4 reminded us that listening is not always easy or comfortable. Sometimes what we hear comes through pain, loss, or confusion. Yet, even in those moments, God's presence continues to speak. The author invited us to walk through the darkness rather than around it, and to discover the light that shines through our cracks and heartbreaks. Chapter 7 Heartbreak. The author opened this chapter with a line that lingers in the soul. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. He reminded us that lament is not a sign of weak faith, but a deep act of faith. When we bring our pain, anger, and questions to God, we are trusting that someone is truly listening. The author describes Psalm 23 as both comforting and brutally honest. It does not promise a way around the darkest valley, but calls us to walk through them. The geography of that verse matters. We do not avoid the hard places. We move through them with faith as our guide. He explained that the word blessed can also mean being on the right road. Sometimes the right road leads through sorrow and uncertainty. Listening in those moments become an act of faith just as real as listening in joy. God meets us in both. Through heartbreak, we learn that light enters through open wounds, not through our perfection. Pain can be a place of revelation if we choose to keep listening. Chapter 8 What We Don't Want to Hear. The author continued by challenging how we separate our spiritual lives from our everyday lives. He wrote that God's presence is not limited to a building, a schedule, or a formal act of worship. God's voice can be heard everywhere and at all times. He reminded us that work itself can be a form of worship. Our jobs, routines, and creative efforts are all sacred spaces where God continues to act and create. Every role we play becomes part of a larger story of divine purpose. The author invited us to see God reflected in the roles of a worker, creator, and builder. God's nature can be seen in the electrician who brings light, the gardener who plants, the healer who restores, and the designer who creates beauty. These images remind us that there is no divide between sacred and ordinary, worship and work, prayer and action. He closed with a call to unity. Do not separate what God intends to hold together. Listening to life in its fullness helps us hear how God's Spirit moves through both heartbreak and healing, through silence and through sound. For a moment of faith, this week practice the courage to walk through the hard places instead of avoiding them. Bring your heartbreak, frustration, and uncertainty to God and trust that you are heard. The light often enters through the places that have been broken open. For signs of frequency, let your work become your worship. As you move through your day, pause and listen for God in every task, meeting, or moment of rest. Notice how the sacred flows through your ordinary routines. Listening with faith transforms even the most routine spaces into holy ground. When you shift your thoughts, you shift your frequency. When you shift your frequency, you shift your life. Stay in tune, stay aligned, keep showing up inside out, and most of all, keep reading with faith and frequency.